cheerful tone? Hey everyone! Welcome back to another exciting episode of Life Unfiltered. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of communication, how we express ourselves, the nuances of language, and why it matters so much in our daily lives. You know, it's funny, I was just reflecting on how we often take for granted the simple act of talking. Every time we open our mouths, we're not just sharing words, we're sharing a piece of ourselves.
Excitedly. Oh wow, that's so true. I mean, it's like every conversation is a little window into our thoughts and feelings, right? But, what do you think makes communication so powerful? Is it the words we use or something deeper?
Nod's great question. I think it's all about connection. When we communicate effectively, we create bonds with others. For instance, I remember a time when I was traveling in Canada. I met this stranger at a coffee shop and we started chatting about the weather classic small talk, right? But then, we ended up sharing our life stories, and by the end of that conversation, we felt like old friends.
Intrigued. Oh wow, that's amazing. So, do you think small talk is actually important then? I mean, I always thought it was just filler, does it really lead to deeper connections?
Laughs. Oh, absolutely. Small talk is like the appetizer before the main course of deeper conversations. It's a way to gauge comfort levels and build rapport. Think of it like a warm-up before a big game. You wouldn't just jump into the deep end without testing the waters first, right?
Nods vigorously. Right. That makes so much sense. So, what about when people say something that just totally throws you off? Have you ever had a conversation where someone just said something completely unexpected? I mean, it must be so awkward.
Chuckles. Oh, definitely. I once had a colleague who, during a serious meeting, suddenly blurted out, "I could eat a duck." It was so out of context that everyone just paused, and then we all burst into laughter. It lightened the mood and made the rest of the meeting much more enjoyable.
Giggling. That's hilarious. I can just imagine the looks on everyone's faces. So, do you think humor plays a big role in communication? Can it really change the whole vibe of a conversation?
Nods, absolutely. Humor can break down barriers and make people feel more at ease. It's like a universal language. When we laugh together, we create a shared experience that can strengthen our connections.
Excitedly. Wow, I never thought of it that way. So, what about when someone doesn't get your joke? Does that mean they're not connecting with you? What if they just stare blankly at you?
Thoughtfully, not necessarily. Sometimes it's just a matter of context or cultural differences. For example, I once made a joke about Canadian winters while visiting, and my friend from a warmer climate just stared at me blankly. It was a classic case of, "You had to be there."
Laughs. That's so relatable. I mean, I've definitely had moments where I thought I was being funny and then it just fell flat. It's kind of awkward, right? What do you do in that situation?
Smiling, it can be. But those moments are also learning experiences. They teach us about our audience and how to adapt our communication style. It's all part of the journey.
Nods. That's a great perspective. So, what do you think is the most important thing to remember when we're trying to communicate effectively? Is there a golden rule?
Pauses for emphasis. I'd say it's all about being genuine. When we speak from the heart and truly listen to others, we create meaningful connections. It's like the saying goes, knowledge is power, but I'd add, connection is everything.
Excitedly, yes, I love that. So, how do we practice being more genuine in our conversations? Is there a technique or something?
Enthusiastically, great question. One way is to ask open-ended questions and really listen to the answers. For instance, instead of asking, "Did you have a good day?" try, "What was the best part of your day?" It invites a deeper response and shows that you care.
Nods. That's such a good tip. I'm definitely going to try that. So, what about when you're in a group setting? How do you make sure everyone feels included in the conversation? It can be tough sometimes.
Thoughtfully. Inclusivity is key. I always try to make eye contact with everyone and encourage quieter members to share their thoughts. It's like being a conductor in an orchestra. Everyone has a role to play, and it's important to bring out the best in each person.
Excitedly? Wow, that's such a cool analogy. So, do you think it's possible to improve our communication skills over time? Like, can anyone really get better at this?
Nods, absolutely. Just like any skill, practice makes perfect. The more we engage in conversations, the better we become at expressing ourselves and understanding others.
Enthusiastically, I love that. So, what's one last piece of advice you'd give to our listeners about communication? Like, what's the takeaway here?
Smiling, I'd say. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Sharing your true self can lead to the most profound connections. Remember, it's all about the journey of understanding each other.
Excitedly. That's such a beautiful message. Thank you so much for sharing all of this today. I feel like I've learned so much.
Cheerfully. Thank you for being such a curious and engaging co-host. And to our listeners, remember to keep the conversation going until next time.